I'm Rebecca, 29, from Seattle. What should have been the happiest day of my life turned into a nightmare of betrayal. I spent $32,000 to fly my entire family to my Hawaiian wedding, only to discover my parents used that money for a European vacation instead. My fiancé Jordan supported me through it all, both financially and emotionally. Before I share how my own parents betrayed me on what should have been the happiest day of my life, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely. Growing up in a middle-class family in Minnesota shaped so much of who I am today. My parents, Linda and Robert, always provided the necessities, but looking back, I can see patterns I was blind to as a child. They frequently prioritized their own wants over their children's needs, though they did it in subtle ways that were easy to excuse. My dad would spend money on new golf clubs while postponing my braces. Mom would book weekend getaways with her friends when I had important school events. These weren't dramatic abandonments, just small disappointments that accumulated over time. I learned early to be self-sufficient. By 16, I was working part-time jobs to pay for my own clothes and school activities. When college applications came around, I knew better than to expect financial help. Instead, I earned scholarships and worked throughout my undergrad years to graduate with minimal debt. My career as a software engineer took off quickly after college. I landed a position at a growing tech company in Seattle, far from Minnesota. The distance seemed healthy, giving me space to build my own life while maintaining cordial but somewhat distant relations with my parents. 3 years ago, I met Jordan at a tech conference in San Francisco. He was presenting on cybersecurity, and I was immediately drawn to his intelligence and humble confidence. We struck up a conversation during the networking hour, and something just clicked. Jordan wasn't like anyone I'd dated before. Despite coming from considerable family wealth, his parents owned a successful chain of luxury hotels. He was remarkably down-to-earth and kind. Our relationship progressed naturally. After a year of dating long distance between Seattle and San Francisco, Jordan relocated to join a Seattle-based security firm. We moved in together 6 months later, and his proposal came on our second anniversary. A perfect sunset moment at the top of the Space Needle. Throughout our relationship, Jordan noticed things about my family dynamic that I had normalized. "Your parents never seem to call unless they need something," he observed gently after my mom phoned to ask for help with their taxes. Or, "It seems like you always visit them, but they never come to Seattle." I brushed these comments off, making excuses about their busy schedules or tight finances. My younger brother Tyler was the exception in our family. Just 2 years younger than me, Tyler and I had formed a tight bond growing up, often relying on each other when our parents were emotionally unavailable. He stayed in Minnesota after college, working as a high school teacher and living about an hour from our parents. We talked weekly, and he was thrilled when I told him about my engagement. As for extended family, we had plenty: aunts, uncles, cousins scattered across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas, but we rarely saw them. My parents maintained superficial relationships with their siblings, getting together perhaps once every few years at a funeral or major holiday. Financial irresponsibility was a consistent theme with my parents. They'd gone through bankruptcy when I was in high school after taking out a second mortgage to fund home renovations they couldn't afford. They bounced back eventually, but continued, living beyond their means. By the time I was engaged to Jordan, they had remortgaged their house twice more. This pattern had forced me to become financially independent early, working since I was legally able and carefully saving everything I could. Despite all this history, I still sought their approval. This people-pleasing tendency had followed me into adulthood, manifesting as an intense desire to make my wedding perfect for everyone, especially my parents. I wanted them to be proud, to see that I had created a successful life despite their lack of support. Maybe then I'd finally receive the validation I'd been seeking since childhood. Jordan proposed with a beautiful sapphire ring, knowing I preferred colored stones to traditional diamonds. The moment was perfect. intimate and thoughtful, just like our relationship. As we began discussing wedding plans, Jordan mentioned his family had connections in Hawaii through their hotel business. His parents offered us access to a stunning beachfront property on Maui at a fraction of the normal cost. "What do you think about a destination wedding?" Jordan asked one evening as we scrolled through photos of the Hawaiian venue. White sand beaches, crystal blue waters, and lush tropical gardens painted the perfect backdrop for our special day. "It's beautiful," I admitted. "But what about all our family and friends? That's expensive for everyone." Jordan nodded understanding. "My parents are happy to cover accommodations for my side through their hotel connections. We just need to figure out your side." The next few days were filled with preliminary budget planning. We calculated costs for venue, catering, photography, attire, and everything else. Jordan's family's generosity significantly reduced our expenses. But the issue of travel for my family remained. During my weekly call with my mother, I mentioned our Hawaiian wedding plans, trying to gauge her reaction. "Hawaii? That sounds lovely, dear, but very extravagant. I don't know if we could afford something like that. Flights alone would be thousands, for your father and me." My heart sank. Though part of me had anticipated this response, hearing it still hurt. Later that night, I broke down crying while telling Jordan about the conversation. "I should have known they wouldn't come. They've never prioritized me," I sobbed. "Maybe we should just do something local in Seattle instead." Jordan sat beside me on our couch, his hand gently rubbing my back. "This is our wedding, Rebecca. We should have it where we want. If the issue is money—" He hesitated, then continued. "We could help them. We could help your whole family get there." I immediately protested. "We can't pay for everyone. That's too much, even with your family's help with accommodations." "Actually, we can," Jordan said quietly. "I've been saving for something special since before we met. This is exactly what that money should go toward, bringing our families together for our wedding." After several more discussions and calculations, I finally agreed. We would offer to cover flights for my immediate family and contribute significantly to extended family members who wanted to attend. The total came to $32,000, a staggering amount, but one that Jordan assured me we could handle given our combined savings and his family's assistance with other wedding expenses. The next day, with nervous excitement, I called my parents to share our decision. "Mom, Jordan and I have been talking, and we really want to have our wedding in Hawaii. It means so much to us to have family there, so we'd like to cover the travel. Expenses for you, Dad, Tyler, and help out the extended family too." There was a pause on the line before my mother responded with unusual enthusiasm. "Oh, Rebecca, that's incredibly generous. Your father and I would be honored. We can help coordinate with the relatives too, since we're closer to everyone." The relief and joy I felt in that moment was overwhelming. For once, it seemed like everything was falling into place. My perfect wedding was becoming a reality. Over the next few weeks, we connected with Alicia, a wedding planner specializing in destination events. She helped us refine our vision, a sunset ceremony on the beach, followed by an elegant but relaxed reception under the stars. We chose a date 9 months out, giving everyone plenty of time to arrange their schedules. "This is going to be amazing," I told Jordan one night as we finalized our guest list. "I can't believe we're actually going to have everyone there." Jordan smiled and kissed my forehead. "You deserve this perfect day, Rebecca. I'm just happy I can help make it happen." I had no idea then how drastically things would change, or that my parents had already begun making very different plans with our generous gift. With the wedding date set and deposits paid to secure our Hawaiian paradise, the next step was transferring the promised funds to my parents. Jordan and I decided to send the full $32,000 directly to them, trusting they would distribute it appropriately among family members as needed. "Your mom said she'd coordinate with everyone, right?" Jordan confirmed as we prepared the wire transfer. "Yes, She knows everyone's situation's best, I replied. Some might need more help than others, depending on family size and circumstances. We completed the transfer on a Tuesday morning. By afternoon, my mother had already called to confirm receipt. This is just wonderful, sweetie. We'll make sure everyone gets what they need to be there. Your father is already making a list of who needs what. Great. Can you keep me updated on who confirms they can come? I asked. Of course, dear. Leave it all to us. The next few months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Alicia, our wedding planner, sent regular updates with photos of floral arrangements, menu options, and decoration samples. Jordan and I selected our wedding attire, ordered invitations, and finalized our honeymoon plans for a week in Kauai following the ceremony. 4 months before the wedding, I realized I hadn't heard any updates from my parents regarding family travel arrangements. I called my Aunt Susan, my mother's sister, to see if she'd been contacted. Wedding in Hawaii? That sounds lovely, Rebecca, but I haven't heard anything about travel arrangements. When is it again? A knot formed in my stomach. It's in May. Mom and Dad were supposed to contact everyone about flights. We're helping with the costs. Well, this is the first I'm hearing of it. I'd better check my spam folder, though. Emails get lost sometimes. After hanging up, I immediately called my mother. Mom, I just spoke with Aunt Susan, and she said, you haven't contacted her about the wedding travel yet. Oh, I meant to, she replied quickly. We've been so busy with your father's work events. I'll call her this week, I promise. I tried to suppress my anxiety. Mom, the wedding is in 4 months. People need to request time off work and make arrangements. Don't worry so much, Rebecca. Everything will work out. This pattern continued for several weeks. Each time I called a relative to check in, I discovered they hadn't been contacted. Each time I confronted my parents, they had a new excuse. The email must have gone to their spam folder. We've had some health issues we didn't want to worry you about. We're waiting to get everyone's information before booking all at once. For better rates. Jordan noticed my growing stress. Something doesn't seem right, he said carefully one evening after I'd spent an hour on the phone with my clearly confused grandmother. They're just disorganized, I defended, though doubt had begun to creep in. They've always been bad with planning. Maybe we should take over the coordination, Jordan suggested, or at least check in on what flights they've actually booked so far. That would seem like I don't trust them, I argued, though the truth was my trust was indeed fading. As the weeks passed, communication with my parents became increasingly strained. They stopped answering my calls at certain times of day and responded to texts hours later with vague assurances. The first concrete red flag appeared when my cousin Jake posted on social media. Anyone heard from Uncle Robert and Aunt Linda? Lately? Been trying to reach them about a family matter. Then came the call from Tyler. Becca, have you talked to Mom and Dad recently? They canceled our monthly dinner last minute, and Dad's car wasn't in the garage when I drove by yesterday, even though he claimed they were staying home all weekend because Mom had a cold. The final piece fell into place when I received an email obviously meant for my mother from her personal account to her work email, but she had accidentally included my email as well. The attachment was a glossy brochure for European treasures, a luxury tour through Italy, France, and Spain. My blood ran cold as I opened the attachment and saw the price tag. $30,000 for 2 people, all inclusive. My hands trembled as I downloaded the European tour brochure. The dates listed for the 3-week luxury vacation perfectly aligned with our wedding timeline and the weeks following. This couldn't be a coincidence. Jordan, I called out, my voice breaking. I need you to see this. He came into our home office, immediately concerned by my expression. I silently turned the monitor toward him. He read quickly, his face darkening as he understood the implications. Let's not jump to conclusions, he said, ever the rational one. There could be an explanation. But we both knew what was happening. Still, I needed concrete proof before confronting my parents. I spent the next few hours investigating, my anxiety mounting with each discovery. First, I called the airline my parents typically used, pretending to be my mother and asking about my booking to Hawaii. The customer service representative found no reservations under either of my parents' names. Next, I logged into the credit card account my mother had once asked me to help manage online. There, in the recent transactions, were charges from hotels in Rome, Paris, and Barcelona, all dated for our wedding month. Finally, I searched my mother's email that had mistakenly included me and found confirmation emails for the entire European tour package, paid in full with a $30,000 SAW deposit. The remaining $2,000 from our transfer appeared to have gone toward new luggage and European outlet adapters. I collapsed into my chair, devastated. The evidence was irrefutable. My parents had taken the money we'd given them to bring our family together for our wedding and spent it on a luxury European vacation for themselves. Jordan held me as I sobbed. I can't believe they would do this. Our wedding, Jordan. They stole from our wedding. After I calmed down enough to think, clearly we decided I needed to confront them immediately. With Jordan beside me for support, I called my parents on speakerphone. My mother answered cheerfully. "Rebecca, how's the wedding planning going?" The casual tone in her voice made my blood boil. "It's interesting, actually. I've been trying to figure out why none of our family has been contacted about their flights to Hawaii." "Oh, we're still working on that," she said smoothly. "It's complicated coordinating so many people." "Really?" "Because I just received an interesting email. A brochure for a European tour that happens to be scheduled during our wedding." A long silence followed. "Mom, are you still there?" My father's voice came on the line. "Rebecca, you need to understand." "Understand what?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "That you took $32,000 we gave you to help our family attend our wedding and spent it on a vacation for yourselves?" "It wasn't like that," my mother jumped in. "We were going to tell you." "When?" "After you were already in Europe during my wedding." "We've never been to Europe," my father said, as if that justified everything. "After all we've done for you, we deserve this opportunity." "Done for me?" I was practically shouting now. "I've been financially independent since I was 16. You've never supported my education, my career, or my relationship. You and Jordan have plenty of money," my mother countered. "His family owns hotels, for goodness sake. You won't miss this money, but this might be our only chance to see Europe." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "That's not the point. You lied to us. You stole from us. You were going to miss our wedding." "We'll pay you back someday," my father offered weakly. "This isn't about the money." I was crying again. "It's about you choosing a vacation over being at your daughter's wedding. It's about you lying to my face for months." The conversation continued in this vein for nearly an hour, my parents alternating between defensive justifications and half-hearted promises to make it right somehow. They never once offered a genuine apology or acknowledged the depth of their betrayal. After hanging up, I immediately called Tyler to explain what had happened. His shock quickly turned to anger on my behalf. "I always knew they were selfish, but this is beyond anything I could have imagined," he said. "What are you going to do about the wedding?" That was the question now weighing heavily on Jordan and me. Our wedding was just 2 weeks away. We had based all our plans on having my family there. Now we needed to decide whether to proceed with our original vision or adapt to this painful new reality. With just 14 days until our wedding, Jordan and I faced an overwhelming situation. The emotional impact of my parents' betrayal was crushing enough, but we also had practical matters to address immediately. "We have 3 options," Jordan said as we sat at our kitchen table the morning after the confrontation. "We can postpone the wedding, we can keep everything as planned but accept that your family won't be there, or we can try to find last-minute funds to fly at least some of your family out." Each option came with significant drawbacks. Postponing meant losing deposits and disappointing Jordan's family, who had already arranged travel. Proceeding without my family meant a one-sided wedding, and finding additional funds this late would be financially stressful, even with Jordan's family's resources. "I don't want to postpone," I said finally. "I want to marry you on the date we planned, in the place we chose. But I need to at least try to get Tyler there." Jordan nodded. "I agree. And maybe we can reach out to some of your closer relatives directly. Some might be able to come if they know the situation." The next step was perhaps the hardest, calling my extended family to explain what had happened. I decided to be honest but diplomatic. "There's been a misunderstanding with the travel arrangements," I explained to my aunts, uncles, and cousins. "Unfortunately, my parents won't be able to coordinate your flights as planned. They've had to make other arrangements." Most family members read between the lines, especially when I mentioned I was hoping some might still be able to attend if they could arrange their own travel. Their reactions ranged from sympathy to shock to uncomfortable silence. My Aunt Susan was particularly direct. "Did Linda and Robert take the money for themselves?" When I didn't immediately deny it, she sighed deeply. "I'm not surprised, just disappointed. They've always been this way." Tyler called that evening with unexpected news. "I've booked my flight to Hawaii. It wasn't cheap this late, but I'm using my summer savings. I wouldn't miss your wedding for anything, Becca." I broke down crying at his generosity. "Tyler, you shouldn't have to spend your savings. You're my sister. There's nothing more important to me than being there for you." Jordan's parents, upon learning what had happened, immediately stepped up. "We'd like to help more of Rebecca's family attend," his mother offered. "We can accommodate a few more guests at the hotel and perhaps assist with some flight costs." Their kindness made me realize how a loving family should behave, which only highlighted the dysfunction I'd normalized from my own parents. As I processed the betrayal, I cycled through grief, rage, and finally, a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment by my parents. It was consistent with who they'd always been. I had been making excuses for their behavior my entire life. "I think I've been enabling them," I admitted to Jordan one night. "Always forgiving, always understanding, always giving them another chance." "You wanted parents who put you first," Jordan said gently. "There's nothing wrong with that. But maybe now you can see them for who they really are and adjust your expectations accordingly." Our wedding planner, Alicia, was incredibly understanding when we explained the situation. She helped us rearrange seating for the now smaller ceremony and reception, and suggested we record the ceremony for family members who couldn't attend. "Sometimes wedding disasters turn into blessings in disguise," Alicia said. "They reveal who truly supports your relationship and who doesn't." As the wedding drew closer, I found strength I didn't know I had. I decided that while I couldn't control my parents' choices, I could control how I responded. I would not let their betrayal ruin the joy of marrying the man I loved. "This wedding is about us," I told Jordan. "About our commitment and our future. My parents chose not to be part of that, and that's their loss." For the first time, I felt myself breaking free from the need for my parents' approval. It was painful, but also liberating. I was ready to begin this new chapter of my life, with clearer boundaries and healthier expectations. Our wedding day dawned with perfect Hawaiian weather, gentle sunshine, a light breeze carrying the scent of plumeria, and waves softly lapping at the shore. As I stood in my suite at the beachfront resort, looking out at the ocean where Jordan and I would soon exchange vows, I felt a mix of emotions I hadn't anticipated. There was joy, of course, the pure happiness of knowing I was about to marry a man who truly loved and respected me. There was gratitude for the people who had made the effort to be there. But there was also an undeniable ache for what should have been. My maid of honor, my best friend since college, helped me into my dress. a flowing, simple gown that caught the island breeze beautifully. "You look stunning," she said, adjusting my flower crown. A knock at the door revealed Tyler, handsome, in his groomsman's suit. His eyes widened when he saw me. "Becca, you're beautiful," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Jordan is the luckiest guy in the world." Tyler had arrived 3 days earlier and had been my rock through final preparations. Now, he held out his arm. "I know I'm not Dad, but I'd be honored to walk you down the aisle." Tears welled in my eyes as I took his arm. "You're exactly who I want beside me." The ceremony setting was breathtaking. White chairs on golden sand, an arch of tropical flowers, and the vast Pacific as our backdrop. Though the gathering was smaller than originally planned, the love filling that space was palpable. Jordan waited for me at the altar, his eyes never leaving mine as Tyler and I made our way down the aisle. When we reached him, Tyler placed my hand in Jordan's and whispered something that made Jordan nod solemnly. Our vows were personal and heartfelt. Jordan promised to always be my partner in all things, to create a family built on trust and respect. I promised to cherish the home we would build together and to never take his love for granted. "I've never felt so seen and valued as I do with you," I told him, my voice steady despite my emotions. "You've shown me what real love looks like." The reception was held on a terrace overlooking the ocean as the sun began to set. Lanterns glowed softly above tables decorated with native flowers and candles. Jordan's family, who had been incredibly supportive throughout everything, went out of their way to make me feel welcomed into their fold. When the time came for the traditional father-daughter dance, I felt a momentary pang of sadness. Jordan's father stepped forward. "Rebecca, I would be honored to stand in if you'll have me," he offered gently. Dancing with this kind man who had raised the person I loved most in the world, I realized something important. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up, who supports you, who puts your happiness alongside their own. The reception held an unexpected surprise. During dinner, Alicia approached with a tablet. "Some people wanted to share their congratulations," she said with a smile. On screen appeared a montage of video messages from extended family members who couldn't attend, cousins, aunts, uncles, all wishing us happiness. They had coordinated this gesture behind the scenes, wanting us to feel their presence despite their physical absence. I was touched beyond words. As the celebration continued into the night, I checked my phone once and saw what I had both dreaded and expected: a social media post from my parents. They were posing in front of the Eiffel Tower, champagne glasses raised with the caption, "Finally living our dream European adventure. Paris is magical." The timestamp showed they had posted it exactly during our ceremony time. I showed Jordan, who gently took my phone and turned it off. "Tonight is about us and the people who love us enough to be here," he said, leading me back to the dance floor. He was right. I pushed thoughts of my parents aside and immersed myself in the celebration. We danced under the stars, surrounded by genuine love and support. 2 weeks later, after a blissful honeymoon exploring Kauai's lush landscapes, we returned to Seattle to begin our married life together. Waiting in our mailbox was a postcard from Italy with my mother's handwriting. "Having a wonderful time. Hope the wedding went well. We should talk when we get back." The casual tone, the complete lack of acknowledgement of what they had done, it was the final confirmation I needed. Something had to change in how I approached my relationship with my parents. The postcard from Italy was the catalyst for a decision I'd been gradually moving toward for months. I needed to establish clear boundaries with my parents. Their behavior had gone beyond mere disappointment to active betrayal, and continuing. Our relationship as before would only enable further hurt. Jordan fully supported my decision to seek professional guidance. "This isn't something anyone should navigate alone," he said as we researched therapists specializing in family dynamics. I began seeing Dr. Marshall, a compassionate therapist, who helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just a wedding mishap, but a lifetime pattern of emotional neglect and manipulation. Healthy parents celebrate their children's milestones, Dr. Marshall explained during one session. They don't sabotage them for personal gain. Through therapy, I came to recognize that my people-pleasing tendencies and desperate need for parental approval had allowed my parents to take advantage of my generosity repeatedly. I wasn't responsible for their actions, but I could be responsible for how I responded going forward. 3 weeks after their return from Europe, my parents requested we meet for dinner to clear the air. Jordan offered to come with me for support, but I decided this was a conversation I needed to have alone. We met at a neutral restaurant. My parents arrived looking tanned and relaxed from their trip, showing no signs of remorse or discomfort. "The wedding photos you posted looked lovely," my mother opened, as if commenting on a casual event she'd had no obligation to attend. "The beach setting was just as pretty as we imagined." I took a deep breath before responding. "I didn't come here to discuss the wedding you chose to miss. I came to talk about our relationship going forward." My father shifted uncomfortably. "Now, Rebecca, we've already explained about the Europe trip. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "So, was my wedding?" I countered calmly. "But this isn't just about the wedding or the money. It's about a pattern that's existed my entire life, where your wants always take priority over my needs." "That's not fair," my mother protested. "We gave you everything growing up." "Did you?" Because I remember working through high school to buy my own clothes. I remember taking out student loans because you couldn't contribute to my education. I remember celebrating every major achievement in my life without your presence or support. For the next hour, I laid out examples of their self-centered behavior throughout my life. They attempted to defend themselves at first, but gradually fell silent as the evidence mounted. "What do you want from us?" my father finally asked. "If it's about the money, we can start paying you back next month." "This isn't about the money," I said firmly. "I'm not asking you to repay it. What I am asking for is respect. From now on, our relationship will have boundaries." I outlined my terms. I would no longer provide financial assistance of any kind. Our contact would be limited to monthly calls and occasional holidays. Any violation of my trust would result in further distance. "This seems extreme," my mother said, looking genuinely surprised. "We're family." "Family doesn't steal from each other," I replied. "Family shows up. Family celebrates together and grieves together. What you did showed me exactly where I stand in your priorities, and I'm adjusting my expectations accordingly." I left that dinner feeling lighter than I had in years. There was sadness, certainly, mourning the parents I wished I had, but also relief in finally acknowledging reality and protecting myself from further disappointment. Jordan was waiting at home, concerned about how the conversation had gone. When I recounted it, he hugged me tightly. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. "That couldn't have been easy." Over the next several months, I worked on strengthening connections with other family members on my own terms. I had regular video calls with Tyler and began developing closer relationships with aunts, uncles, and cousins without my parents as intermediaries. Many of them shared similar frustrations with my parents, but had never felt comfortable expressing them to me directly. Jordan's family continued to welcome me warmly. His mother invited me to their family lake house for weekends, teaching me family recipes and treating me like the daughter she never had. His father sought my input on tech investments and proudly introduced me as his daughter-in-law. These relationships showed me what healthy family dynamics could look like. 6 months after our wedding, my parents called with an unexpected request. They were facing foreclosure on their house due to missed mortgage payments and needed $20,000 to avoid losing their home. "We wouldn't ask if it wasn't an emergency," my father insisted. "We can sign a formal loan agreement this time." The old Rebecca would have immediately agreed, feeling responsible for their well-being despite their choices. The new Rebecca was different. "I'm sorry you're in this situation," I said calmly, "but I won't be providing financial assistance. I can help you research assistance programs or connect you with financial counseling services." They were shocked by my refusal, but I held firm. It was a turning point in our relationship. A year after the wedding, subtle changes began to appear in my parents' behavior. They stopped asking for money entirely. They remembered my birthday without prompting. When we spoke, they actually asked questions about my life and listened to the answers. They weren't perfect and probably never would be, but they were adapting to the new boundaries I had established. The healing process wasn't linear. Some days I still felt anger resurface, especially when looking at our wedding photos and seeing the conspicuous absence of my parents. But those moments became less frequent and less intense as time passed. "Family is who you choose," Tyler said during one of our weekly calls. "And sometimes the family you build is stronger than the one you were born into." He was right. Through this painful experience, I had discovered the strength to define family on my own terms. I had learned to recognize genuine love and support, and to step away from relationships that consistently caused harm. Most importantly, I had learned that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was necessary for my own well-being. Today, as I look back on that chapter of my life, I feel a sense of peace. The $32,000 my parents took wasn't just money. It was a catalyst for growth and change. It forced me to face difficult truths and make difficult choices. And while I wouldn't wish such betrayal on anyone, I can acknowledge that it ultimately led me to a healthier, more authentic life. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who repeatedly hurt you? Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is knowing when to step back for your own protection. If my story resonated with you, please share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found value in my journey, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming family challenges. Remember that you deserve relationships built on mutual respect and genuine care. Thank you for listening to my story.